The longest day, the first day of summer, the solstice. We stop and mark the time today. We stop and celebrate the light, the greatest amount we will see in one day. There is revelry to be had this day. There is a field to play in, flowers to pick, sweet berries to eat, and bedtimes to push later just a bit. There's the itch of another closing school year, a yearning for the freedom of summer, a return to joy and rest. Marge Piercy describes the scene of summer in her poem, More Than Enough. The first lily of June opens its red mouth. All over the sand road where we walk, multiflora rose climbs trees, cascading white or pink blossoms, simple, intense, the scene drifting like colored mist. The arrowhead is spreading its creamy clumps of flower, and the blackberries are blooming in the thickets. Season of joy for the bee. The green will never again be so green, so purely and lushly new. Grass lifting its weedy seed heads into the wind. Rich, fresh wine of June, we stagger into you smeared with pollen, overcome as the turtle laying her eggs in the roadside sand. The green will never be so green again. The light will never be as long as it is today. As we begin summer, what blossoms are unfolding for you? How will you greet this next season of time? What will you do with this extra light? As we enter into silence, let your mind rest with these questions on your heart. May this silence we have shared continue to heal us and hold us all. Amen.
From the Gospel according to Shel Silverstein. Forgotten language. Once I spoke the language of the flowers. Once I understood each word the caterpillar said. Once I smiled in secret at the gossip of the starlings and shared a conversation with the housefly in my bed. Once I heard and answered all the questions of the crickets and joined the crying of each falling, dying flake of snow. Once I spoke the language of the flowers. How did it go? How did it go? Do you ever feel like you've forgotten the language of the flowers? On the rare occasion that I let myself lapse into that soft pastel world of daydream, I sometimes remember it, if only for a fleeting moment. But more often, much much more often are the times when I am reminded of how harsh an inhospitable human community can be to such simple tidings, such tidings of gentle beauty and joy. So Thursday was such a reminder to many of us as we heard the news of the shootings in Charleston, South Carolina. Yet another mass shooting in our country. Yet another white man twisted by the evil of racism, committing murder by its name. A church, sacred home for the spirit, place for healing and solace desecrated by violence, and yet another round of the same talking heads, gibbering the same fruitless chatter, no solutions in sight. In times like these, the language of the flowers seems very far away indeed. How did it go? How did it go? This ritual today, this uniquely Unitarian ritual of flower communion, was brought to the States during World War II. As bombs dropped around the world and evil was perpetrated on a scale previously unimaginable, Unitarians around our country began practicing this simple ritual. Each member of the community brings a flower. Gathered together, we bask in their simple radiance, their grand diversity. And seeing them, we see our reflection. We see our community reflected in the bouquets. Each of us bringing our unique gift, people as varied as the colors and shapes of the flowers, and each made more beautiful by the whole. Each member of the community leaves with a different flower than they brought, receiving the gift of another, reminder that we depend upon one another more than we know. Norbert Čapek was the Unitarian minister who first created flower communion. He had founded the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia, and with his congregation in Prague in 1923, he invited the first flower communion because he believed that his people needed a ritual, more ritual, to help bind them together. The community had thrown out so many of the traditional Christian rituals, and so he turned to the native beauty of the countryside to find elements for a communion that would be genuine, would be real for them. And from then on, it became an annual June rite, an annual June ritual in that church, and eventually in many Unitarian and now Unitarian Universalist congregations. His wife, Maya, who was also a minister, brought the ritual here to the Unitarian Church of Cambridge in her tour of the States in 1940. And then because of the outbreak of World War II, she was unable to return to Prague. And so it wasn't until the end of the war that she or anyone here learned that her husband Norbert had been killed in 1942. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Čapek's Gospel of the Inherent Worth and Beauty of Every Human Person to be, and this is what was recorded in the Nazi court records, to be too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. His Gospel of the Inherent Worth and Beauty of Every Human Person was too dangerous to the Reich for him to be allowed to live. He was sent to Dachau, where he was killed the next year during a Nazi medical experiment. There is so much to be broken over, so much that breaks our hearts open, and yet it is a great gift of this community to know that our message of the inherent worth of every person, the beauty and dignity of every being, is a dangerous message for those who would perpetrate evil. This celebration of life, this recognition of beauty through our communion of flowers, is an act of resistance and resilience in a world that breaks us open again and again. Each flower communion service, Norbert Chapek would use these words to consecrate the flowers. And while they ring a little theistic for our congregation and our times in Unitarian Universalism, I invite you to just listen with an open heart and open mind to these words of Norbert Chapek. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and gifts, to be one in desire and affection, and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of us all are needed to do thy work in the world. Amen. May these flowers be holy, not just by these words, but by our act of bringing them together, our witnessing their beauty together. As we share in this communion, I invite each of you to come forward to find a flower that you did not bring. And don't worry, if you didn't bring any flowers, there's plenty of extras. Bill will play some music, and I invite you to sing along. Sing as we celebrate that there is joy even in the midst of sadness. Amen.
So I invite you to just take a moment with your flower. Just see it for a moment. See how it's something that's not exactly uniform, even though it has patterns that repeat itself. How the petals are connected to the stem and the leaves. Each of us holding a flower, but no flower quite the same. Each of us human and part of this one interconnected world, but none of us quite exactly the same. One of our mentors always ends worship with these words: "We are one body. We depend on each other more than we know." And I believe that depending on each other is something that is often hidden. Like the language of flowers, it's a truth that we easily forget. We think that we can go it alone, make do, use our own bootstraps. And yet, when we forget our connection to one another, we forget our connection to this world, to all in it, to other humans, to other flowers. Dylan Roof, the young man who went into the church in Charleston, had forgotten this truth when he shot other people. He forgot his connection, even across lines of difference and race. So often when these violent tragedies occur, we say, how did this happen? We focus on the personality, on the individual, or on the political or justice system. In examples of genocide, war, and hate crimes, we spend a lot of time and energy reacting to crisis. And what lies below the crisis is layers of hate fueled by fear, fueled by prejudice, prejudice fueled by ignorance, ignorance stemming from separation. It is in a society where people are separated from one another, literally, by railroad tracks and neighborhoods, by which grocery store you frequent, that we come to not know one another. We come to forget our reliance on one another as part of a human family. The natural world again and again reminds us of our ignorance here. The flower could not grow without the bee. The bee could not be there without the hive. The larger community of life constantly supporting and regenerating itself. Our theme this summer is living interdependence. It's kind of a big word, interdependence, and if you read it too quickly, it looks like independence. And for too long, I think we have, as Unitarian Universalists, mistaken our pride and our tradition as being one of independent. We can think freely, we can make our own choices, we can decide on our own path. And yet there is a dangerous side to this theology, one we need to be aware of as members of a liberal tradition. If we're too focused on our own opinions, we may put them over the collective whole, the needs we have for one another. This summer, we invite you to put your connections first. For our summer task, we brainstormed a lot. What were we going to do to break down separation? What can we do to remind each other of our need for one another? This morning, we want to offer you a bead and a string. And so it is a simple reminder that this bead reminds you that you are connected to all other creatures, to all life on this planet. When you put it on your wrist or maybe your keychain, We want you to see it regularly throughout the summer. What's that for? Oh, right. I'm not doing it alone. I'm connected to others. Let the bead be a reminder that you are part of a system larger than yourself. Over the summer, we invite you to do two things. To make two new connections. One new connection within the UUCC community. We may know one another, but we may not know everyone. There's probably someone you don't talk to that regularly, someone you wouldn't normally have a cup of tea with or go for a walk by the water with. So your invitation over the summer is to make a little time for someone here you don't know that well yet, to just spend time going a little bit deeper with someone in this community. Maybe you will garden together in front of the church or work on the bag project together. Maybe you'll just sit outside and enjoy the fireflies. The second invitation is to make a connection outside of your normal comfort zone. Do you remember Sarah's sermon that the magic happens outside of that circle that's our comfort zone? Make a new connection in a place you normally wouldn't go. Maybe it's the other side of the tracks. Maybe it's a new type of dance or music performance. Maybe it's just a part of the area you just haven't been to much. What happens when you visit that place? When you spend time with someone who you're separated from, in whatever way you're able to. The spirit of Norput Chapuk is with us today. His life grows in these flowers, in each of us, reminding us and calling us back to our beauty, back to our interconnection. So this summer assignment, it's supposed to be fun. And I hope you take it seriously as well. Because separateness lives, and we are responsible for creating a more connected world here and now. A world where we are more whole and less divided. Let us not be separated from one another. Let us not be separated from the flowers. May our connections reach out. May they transform the world as we are transformed. May it be so.
Let us rise now in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together our closing hymn. It's 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Feel free to dance with your flower.
To someone close to you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.